thanks to Bush and Cheney and Rumsfeld and Wolfowitz. Thank you for making the rest of our lives in this world fucked.
Just get out of my face.
Brainwash number 12. Aujourd'hui, toujours au Wisconsin. Hier soir, c'était Michael Moore. Mais on n'a pas réussi à poser les 2-3 questions qu'on avait en tête. On va le faire aujourd'hui.
Puis sûrement, il n'y aura pas beaucoup de monde, la presse locale et tout ça. Donc, on pourra avoir la chance de la voir.
Very sorry we're late, so we'll take a few questions and then we'll get out there. Yes?
A question from Montreal, Canada.
Okay, Americans first. Okay. No offense. Because this has nothing to do with getting rid of George W. Bush.
Yeah, it's a documentary on Bush.
How are you feeling? There were some reports you have lots of pneumonia.
I did last week. I'm fine now. Thank you. Thank you for asking.
We have time for 2 more questions.
Mr. Moore, do you think that part of America is brainwashed by the mainstream medias?
Hey, is that Canadian guy? Did he move over there?
Yeah.
What the fuck is that?
Yes, that's, but
Oh, you
That's your
Canadians
trick,
didn't
no?
used to be that shifty. Anybody else here from the local TV?
come on, Michael.
I like you.
Somebody ask us
Heads. Yeah.
Right here, right here.
Answer the Canadians' question?
Yeah.
All right.
Good question.
Yeah, thank you.
What's the question? See, they stood up for you.
So do you think that part of America, the persons voting for Bush, are brainwashed by the mainstream medias?
It's not so much brainwashed, but the mainstream media has not told the truth from the get-go with George W. Bush. They've been afraid to ask the hard questions and demand the evidence. The press in this country, before the war, was more interested in going for a ride on a tank in a desert with a little helmet on than telling the American people the truth that there were no weapons of mass destruction and there was no connection to 9/11. Had the American people been given that information before the war, they wouldn't have supported the war and we wouldn't have this war. 70% of the American people supported this war at the beginning because they didn't have the information. Once they had the information, the majority of Americans are now opposed to the war. 54% are now opposed to the war because they're enlightened. But the only way you become enlightened is when the press does their job. You hold a public trust. That trust says that you get to go to the places of power that we, the people, can't get into. And you're supposed to come back to us with the truth. Not be in there sucking up to the administration. That, to me, the mainstream media has blood on its hands. Because I don't believe these nearly 1,100 American soldiers would be dead, and countless thousands Iraqis, if the press here had done its job.
Thank you.
Now that's answering a Canadian.
Hey, Brainwash, day number 13 today. Jour numéro 13, direction encore une fois Madison.
On aime ça, Madison, on aime ça.
Now we are getting somewhere. Yesterday, Michael Moore confirmed what we were thinking. We have to blame the media. We're back on the road to meet the journalist and the book author, John Nichols.
Sous l'emprise des entreprises, les médias médisent qu'ils analysent en toute franchise, sauf le temps qu'il y aura des balises, qu'ils les écoutent et les lisent, ils écriront des bêtises. Alors qui...
Donc, avec lui, on va essayer de comprendre comment fonctionnent les médias américains. Est-ce que les médias conservateurs ont un impact véritable sur la pensée des Américains?
Ils écriront des bêtises. Alors qui...
Aux États-Unis, les autorités redoublent d'efforts pour retrouver les boîtes noires du vol d'Égyptienne.
La réponse après la pause.
Il écrit pour le journal The Nation. Et voilà, on espère de l'avoir à 2 heures aujourd'hui.
Sous l'emprise des entreprises, les médias médisent qu'ils analysent en toute franchise, sauf le temps qu'il y aura des balises, qu'ils les écoutent et les lisent, ils écriront des bêtises. Alors qui, sous l'emprise des entreprises...
Great, thank you. Okay.
Journalism's in crisis in the United States. It is a disastrous circumstance that we are in currently. Our journalists did such an awful job of covering the run-up to the war in Iraq, the months before the war was launched, that most Americans thought that Saddam Hussein had had a role in the September 11th terrorist attacks on New York and Washington. That was completely false. That was not the case, and yet most Americans believed it, and that belief helped to lead this country into war.
Saddam Hussein and Al-Qaeda have met at least 8 times since the early 1990s. Iraq has sent bomb-making and document forgery experts to work with Al-Qaeda, capable of delivering chemical weapons.
A media that allows that to happen is a fully dysfunctional media. It failed in its job. No journalist can be proud of the fact that average Americans have the wrong idea about the most fundamental questions of terrorism, threats, security, war, and peace. So there's no question media is in crisis in the U.S., and journalism is in crisis.
So for November 2nd, what is your choice?
I'm voting for Bush and Cheney.
Do you know why?
Well, you know, like reading the newspaper and listening to all the television and mostly like the popular literature and stuff. And so, that's my choice.
We have media companies that don't let working journalists do a good job. They cut the budgets for news departments. They tell journalists they have to cover entertainment stories about exercise or the latest food trend rather than serious stories about local, state, national, and international affairs. And the end result of that over many years has been a diminution of journalism in this country.
Are we brainwashing America?
I don't think that there's a group of people that get together and decide on a Thursday afternoon that they're going to brainwash America. It's not as insidious as that. But what we do have is the reality of capitalism. And we should be blunt about this. I mean, capitalism works in a certain way. If corporations are allowed to do whatever they want, they will always maximize their profits. The best way to maximize profits in media is to simplify. Don't cover the tough stories. Cover the sexy stories. Cover the entertainment stories. Lots of reports on Michael Jackson's trial or Kobe Bryant's rape case. These stories are the big stories in American media. So people get all excited about watching, you know, is Martha Stewart going to go to jail? Even our politics is covered as an entertainment. You know, what did John Kerry do in Vietnam? Did George Bush used to be a drunk? You know, and we look at all of these personality issues. Well, who cares?
Why do you support Mr. Bush?
Well, there's a lot of people that are going against Kerry. Some of the allegations, the news about him, you know, he's never been there like he was saying he was.
Vietnam?
Vietnam, yeah.
So, you don't believe that Mr. John Kerry went to Vietnam?
According to the POWs and publicity, like in the newspaper every day, that's why, yeah.
You don't believe that?
I don't believe.
Are you joking there, or you're serious about that?
I'm serious about it.
If you have any question about what John Kerry's made up.
Why do so many of us have serious questions? How did you get your Purple Heart when your commanding officer didn't approve it?
The swift boat veterans for truth are Vietnam soldiers. They tarnish Kerry's military record with a huge TV campaign. They are creating a confusion. What's right? What's false? Our Navajo Indian is completely lost.
Are you joking there, or you're serious about that?
I'm serious about it.
So you don't believe in the 3 Purple Hearts?
No.
Well, who cares? We've had draft-dodging presidents in the past, and some of them have been pretty good, and we've had drunk presidents in the past, and some of them have been great. And so let's worry less about the personality and a lot more about what they actually are going to do.